Welcome to Focus Friday. Today, we're talking commercial. It's Brandon Schutte, Caldwell Banker Commercial Prime Properties. And today with me, I have Mr. Mike Foster, CCIM.
Hi there.
Mike's been in the business since 2007 and recently was awarded the Circle of Distinction, the Platinum, for being the top 2% of all commercial brokers across CBC. So it's a huge honor. And so we're very glad to have you today. And
Brandon, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So just to get started, what are you seeing in the commercial market right now?
Well, Brandon, as always, it's kind of a mix. I always say it's a mixed bag. It depends on what part of the market we're talking about. 2 or 3 years ago, single tenant net lease properties with long terms on their leases, family dollars, auto related, single tenant retail. With that, everybody was looking for that duration. They were looking for that long-term lease. And there was a lot of concern about years remaining. Is there 7 years? Is there 8 years? Oh, it's less than 5 years. Now we're looking more, I think, at rates on those type of properties, on those investment properties. We're looking at rents. We're looking at when can we actually increase rents. So the near term isn't as much of an issue as the yield. So you've kind of got the leveraged buyers kind of moving to the sidelines. We still have a lot of 1031 buyers, a lot of buyers that don't like what's going on in the stock market, don't like what's going on in the other areas, and are just looking for yield and their own yield.
Yeah.
So they'll look at, whereas a leveraged buyer will be looking at a prime rate that's 7% and you got a cap rate at 7%. They're like, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
But those investors that are looking for that stable cash flow are like, well, I know I can't get that from the bank's not going to give it to me when I deposit my money. I'm just going to go ahead and take that yield myself.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Some of that going on, and then good organic demand. A lot of things going on with our user base. Tenants, industrial tenants, office tenants. Great retail development demand for retail land, pad sites, those kind of things. We've got a lot of retail developers. COVID really put kind of that retail market to sleep for about a year and a half.
A lot of people were worried if it would ever come back.
Yeah, and really what we're seeing on the retail side is real strong bricks and mortar resurgent, and then a lot of developers and tenants alike saying, hey, we need to get back in the game and get some store counts, get some new things. And those developers are excited because they got to add that product to their portfolio at new rents and new yields and new cap rates.
Nice. So obviously recently there's a big change in the residential market. Interest rates go up. How is that affecting commercial real estate?
Interest rates matter.
Yep.
They matter. And, I kind of look at interest rates as the tax on the world. We've had governments talking about the fact that we don't have to worry about deficits. So we've got a highly leveraged government sector. We have quite a bit of debt in the private sector. Interest rates going up, everybody now has to pay attention. They have to actually realize that it matters, which I think kind of gets the market re-energized. I think where it's kind of focusing more is on that organic tenant base, short-term tenants, self-storage, car washes, things that really generate money, and you can adjust your rates. Yeah. So a lot of demand there. I think for the last 2 years, we've had a lot of owner-occupied purchases going on. A lot of tenants saying, I want to be an owner. Now they need to think about that, and maybe they're starting to say, well, maybe I'll be a tenant. Maybe I'll keep being a tenant.
Buyer power decreases a little bit. They say, well, maybe we just put it on hold.
And so that's great for the industrial commercial landlords who are happy to try and accommodate that and say, well, let's grow together. If you need a bigger space, let's make it happen. So it's different.
Yep. Residential interest rates went way up, but commercial didn't.
Relatively.
Yeah. Not like the residential world did.
Yeah, there's definitely a relative difference between The mortgage market's interesting in that I think the spread between the 10-year Treasury and our mortgage rates was 2% on the spread itself, but something going on in the market right now, and I think at some point you'll find some. Number one, there's going to be less of these mortgages out there.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see that spread come back down to 2%. We're kind of getting a double whammy in the mortgage market right now, and I think if we can get the spread down to 2% instead of at 7%, we'll be at 6. So that'll help. Commercial market, prime rates at 7, and prime rate was at 5. So we've gone from 5 to 7. So as opposed to going from 3 to 7.
Right.
So the relative difference is not quite as great, and there's still a decent number of self-employed, I want to be my own landlord, who are still saying, I'll take 7%.
Yeah.
And I will own it. And banks are in good shape. That's really a nice thing. We don't have a financial crisis.
Right.
We just have an interest rate increase. So the banks are still open. They want to lend.
Yeah.
So it's still
hit their quota too.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you seeing different property types being more popular than others throughout the year? Like, what property types are really booming right now, and then what do you see as the next property type that's going to kind of hit that wave?
The older I get, the more I look at the world, in 2 years, 1 year, quarter to quarter for me gets harder and harder, because it seems like a quarter to me is now like a day.
Yeah.
So I think we have some multi-year trends that are happening. And like we talked about, we're moving more towards that near-term thinking. And how do I get better rents? We have the apartment developers in this market that are coming in and building product. They're dealing with construction costs. So one thing that I could see happen in the next 6 months is that construction costs get a little more favorable, but we're in an adjustment phase where the rents have to increase to account for everything. Yeah. We have increased interest rates. We have increased construction costs. Now we really got to get the rents up. At some point, we'll have probably some changing in the interest rates towards the end of 2023. We'll have lower construction costs middle of next year.
So do you think rental rates will level out, or do you think they'll just?
I think it'll help occupancy, because there's limits to what renters can pay in the commercial market and the residential market. In the residential market, I think we're already seeing some renters say, well, I'm going to double up. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to do some things because I can only pay so much.
Right.
So everybody's got to make some adjustments. So right now it's all being pushed to the rent side. I think there'll be a swing back, and we'll start adjusting interest rates and construction costs and other things to make the market more efficient.
Nice. For our brokers, where should newer brokers focus their time when they first get started in commercial real estate?
You want to know your market.
Mm-hmm.
You want to understand. You want to look at the listed inventory, kind of understand what that is. Getting to know property owners is obvious every day. You got to do that. You got to work. You got to call. You got to visit. You want to also get to know tenants, and tenants are your friends as well. And
local businesses and national brands. And
be part of those business organizations and other networks. Mm-hmm. Build your networks. Do the work in the service clubs. That's another great place to get to know people. And it's like any business, it takes time. Yeah. And what you're working on now is going to pay dividends 18 months to 24 months. And you got to consistently put in the work.
I read a stat somewhere recently that was saying that most transactions started 9 months ago. The relationship started 9 months ago, and you had that relationship, and you're building that relationship for 9 months before it actually, saw a transaction or actually saw work from it. So,
well, you and I are involved in a transaction now, and that owner, I started working with that owner. I tenanted his building, I think in 2014. So I brought a tenant to his building in 2014, and from that eventually came a sale in 2022. So 8 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting that over time you develop these relationships and
I
they
think
really
I
help.
think my client on that I've known for 3 or 4 years. We've done several deals, and yeah,
Yeah,
we actually targeted the building, and then when you finally listed it, we're like, finally. So, um,
timing.
yeah, and it's putting in that time and building those relationships. That's what I've always told brokers. Our job is building relationships and being
Absolutely.
there when they need something. So, um, any advice for someone thinking about getting into the commercial real estate world? So whether that's, someone from outside the industry moving in, or maybe a residential agent that's, ready to make that swing into commercial.
So usually when you enter real estate, you enter residential or commercial from an area that you think is going to be your business model.
Mm-hmm.
And just be ready to adjust your business model. When I came to Coldwell Banker Commercial in 2008, I'd been doing a lot of land business.
Mm-hmm.
That had been my focus for 8 years prior to that. I was in home building land,
Okay.
home building development. So I came to this market thinking I'm going to be heavy in land. I'm going to be a land broker. And I've quickly learned that the market, you need to be more of an omnivore in
Yep.
this market. You need to be doing land. You need to be doing leasing. You need to be doing commercial, office, retail, all the segments because of the market size.
Right.
And so I think you need to be prepared to kind of work from your area of strength outward and quickly try to learn other segments of the market and understand all the different nuances. So,
in dealings with other commercial brokers in these big city markets, they specialize. They are office, lease on these 3 blocks, and they make a career out of that. And we talk about, in these traditional markets, you can't really be a specialist. You can't just focus on one. So that's kind of what we've always talked about is you pick one and you become the market expert for that one, and then you grab another one, and then consistently doing that, and then you build this arsenal of expertise in a myriad of different types. So,
absolutely.
And then what makes Coldwell Banker Commercial Prime Properties a great brokerage to work with? Shameless plug time.
Well, I think it's a national network. I think it's the listing platforms. Locally, it's our group. I love our office and our culture and how we really work together and get along.
Yeah.
And try to collaborate whenever we can. So those are the things that I love about CBC.
Yeah. I know that was important to me when I first got into the industry. Was I want a national brand. I want to be able to have a network nationwide, not just very specific into one market. So that same reason, that's why I came here, was for that national brand, and the culture here has been fantastic.
Yeah,
so,
it has.
Maybe we check the chat and see any questions if we have for Mike about commercial real estate or commercial market, anything. A lot of congratulations. Again, congratulations on your award. I mean, top 2% of all of Coldwell Banker Commercial. That's big.
Well, it's been a pretty incredible market in the last couple of years. So I think it's been really great for everybody. And I think 2023 there'll definitely be some opportunities.
Yeah. 2020 residential, popped off, and commercial just went still waters. And so we do have a question. Looks like, what are some of the best ways to stay up to date on what's happening in the commercial market? So what's the best way to stay plugged in and get your information?
I like Business Times. I think it's great. There's Business Times in a lot of major markets. There's just a lot of periodicals, business periodicals, Bloomberg, WSJ. There's retail market reporters, Western Real Estate Development.
Well, you also mentioned not just networking, but joining some business groups.
CCIM is a great organization. The certified commercial investment member.
Yep.
They have a lot of great.
That's basically your doctorate in commercial real estate. So once you get that designation, everybody knows that you absolutely know what you're talking about and you are the expert. So
Right.
haven't got there yet, but.
And then there's, it is a local business. So your local business, Grand Junction Business Times is great. Great Daily Sentinel here. It's great.
Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely. Yeah. Business
Local
organizations.
Realtor associations.
Grand Junction Economic Partnership is a fantastic organization and has a lot of good data. And then, for us, Colorado Mesa University and the economic, you get a quarterly economic newsletter from Nathan Perry. And so gives you your economic data sets and what trends are economically.
Excellent. Looks like we've got a couple more questions. Whoa, got a bunch more all at once. We are watching markets nationally. We seem a bit insulated based on our location and desire for people to move here. Are there markets across the nation that are targeting as feeder markets or industries that we're targeting? So, okay, good point. So in a traditional market, we see different companies coming here, and are we targeting something specific in the commercial world?
So I think one of the things that we have been for certain industries is a distribution hub. For instance, American Tire Distributors has an 80,000 square foot warehouse here, and a box truck every day goes to Steamboat, Moab, Durango, and in and out of that warehouse. So I think in this market, some more distribution, I think, is going to start happening, especially with population growth in the eastern Utah and western Colorado area in general. For us, it's a lot of regional medical, regional higher ed. We aggregate a region between Denver and Salt Lake.
Yeah. And we just crossed the population kind of threshold. As a valley, if we just crossed that 150,000, so starting to see some more attention from the bigger stuff.
Well, and the smaller stuff, just a lot of small pad retail. Yeah, Cracker Barrel. There's going to be a second steakhouse to go with the one on North Avenue. There's more gas convenience, car washes.
Yeah, lots
car
of
washes has been something else.
We actually have a place here in our market where there's 2 car washes going in side by side, 2 separate businesses, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's getting ready to go head to head.
Yeah.
Lube, auto related, tires, some different things like that. So you're right. There is when we hit 100,000, that's when we got the Sam's Club, and the box retail. We're pretty well set. We've got our 2 super Walmarts and our Sam's, and we'll see what happens with this merger between Albertsons and Kroger. That'll be an interesting trend, how that plays out all across Colorado and Utah and the whole Western United States.
What is one tip that you can give to every agent?
To every agent, I would say always try to work with other agents. Other agents are your friend, and that's, to me, it's they know the drill, and if either they know the drill or they want to know the drill, they want to learn, or they're seasoned and experienced, and leverage those relationships.
That's great. I had the conversation before that I used to think it was we represent our client and we're against the other representation, but you quickly learned that no, our job is to work together because we each have clients that are trying to get to the same goal. So once you start looking at the other agent as your ally and your partner in trying to get this transaction done, it kind of changes your mentality of how you handle that. And
and to help communicate things that are difficult in the transaction, but they have to be that way, and you have to explain why, and that person has to help you explain why.
Right. So, you become the translators almost.
Yeah.
Let's do one more question. How do you leverage the CBC brand for your business? So I know that you touched on being a national brand, but what are some of the tools, or how are you leveraging CBC as our brand?
Well, for me, it's I'm making sure all my signs are always updated, utilizing them whenever whenever I can, wherever I can. I really like the signs and the logos, and um, I think it really, that's another thing about having a CBC office. When you have a half a dozen other commercial agents in your office and they have their signs up, it really shows market presence. And that's important. Utilizing the web and making sure that the brand is out there, utilizing it on social media, posting and making sure that that's there. So, you know, the brand to me is the logo and the name and the information that goes with it. There's also great information sources from CBC that I try to repost and re-disseminate and utilize. It's another great, somebody had asked about information sources. CBC is a great source of commercial property information.
And a great source of training too. I know that we have the CBC, CBCU is the learning platform, but self-taught classes you can sign up for. You know, I actually did a training course where I actually got to travel to the headquarters and just the relationships I built there. And so, yeah. I was going to touch on one other thing too, and that's, you know, the network of brokers.
Absolutely, especially in our market, Western Colorado. You know, Steamboat Vale, Telluride. Had a great, wonderful conversation this week with an agent from Telluride.
Nice.
Talked about our respective markets and what's going on. So it's great. Karen, maybe you're out there. So
say hi, give us a wave. Okay. Well, thank you very much for.
Thanks for having me. I know it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
You're one of the busiest guys I've ever met. So getting still some of your time is fantastic and appreciate it. And you guys, if you have any questions, you can always reach out. We're here to help with any of your commercial needs. That includes our family too. So if we can ever help, don't hesitate to reach out. So you guys have a great weekend and we'll see you next week.